This is why I could never be aligned with conservatives and Republicans. Since a big problem with politics seems to be ideology versus ideology, labeling liberals versus conservatives, what those two words mean to those given people, I want to make it really clear why I could never align myself as a conservative, where if I was labeled a conservative, I would feel like I was going to offend people. Since I see a pretty big difference with economic perspectives and social perspectives, I'm going to make it obvious now that my big problem is with a social perspective that many hold on the Republican side. Nonetheless, allowing yourself to be in the Republican or conservative umbrella would basically insinuate that you support this thought. Many years ago, 4 or 5, what have you, when I decided to delve into politics and I stuck my head in coming from an angle of philosophy, only coming to philosophy by deciding to ask simple questions about religion or just society in general, I stuck my head in only to see a few things I couldn't understand, the main one being on the concept of gay rights. On one side, I saw people fighting for gay rights, like equality in the eyes of the law, a general need for society to change its prejudice against an entire group of people, and the other side was arguing for... That's where the problem happens. I don't know. Why would they even care, and why were they arguing, and what their arguments were is what the problem was. When I asked those simple questions of how are these prejudices any different, or why should I hold these on some different level than women's rights when we fought for African American rights in this country just decades ago. Marriage is between a man and a woman. This nation was built on Christian values. It's just not natural. I don't want my children being around those people. It's a sin to act on those urges. If you let them get married, you're gonna let people get married to dogs and cats next? These arguments, if they were based on anything at all, can be whittled down to nothing more than religion and gross factor, I guess. Do I really need to point out that neither of those have any place in a public argument, in a public setting, where freedom of religion is part of our First Amendment, basically part of our Constitution? You can have your religion, but just keep it to yourself. You can feel that it's gross, but if you don't understand the subjectivity of that argument, then you're just someone that shouldn't be arguing in a public setting to begin with. And the even more insulting thing about the religious argument is it can't simply end at they shouldn't marry, but that it comes from religious judgments of they're living in sin, there won't be any gays in my heaven. So now you're not only holding back their freedoms for your personal religion, but you're labeling them as terrible and damned people in order to make a point. It's not controversial for me to say these arguments were coming from the conservative Republican side of the aisle. I nestle this whole terrible argument up with Bush's religious-based hold on stem cell research while he was president, and the conservatives basically packaging these ideas up as family values, patriotism, real America, and I don't know how I was supposed to take the party seriously, let alone not be offended. But apparently it didn't matter. They have enough populists behind this that it's apparently not their job to worry about the freedoms of all the people of this nation. They can get elected by touting those shallow, irresponsible arguments. In many regions, it even garners votes. So great. Now I not only heartily, ferociously disagree with their unreasonable stance on gay rights, but now I have to worry about them only playing off the prejudice of the populace to get elected and fueling the same ignorant thoughts all at the same time. How was I supposed to keep listening to people that shovel that rhetoric? Whether they mean it sincerely or not, whether it's based off religion or completely subjective bias, it's all terrible. I will never align myself with anyone that argues from a perspective of complete ignorance, seemingly pridefully to make it worse. We're talking about people's lives, and their lack of trying made me sick. Their continued lack of effort continues to make me sick. I'm up for debate on lots of topics. I hate these labels, conservatives and liberals, with the way it lets people finish the conversation before it even starts. But the fact that one of basically 2 parties I have to choose from even stands for this is disgraceful. Disgusting. It's because of this, everything I just talked about, that I'm prone to very much skepticism. Anytime I talk to anyone or I hear about any idea that comes from a conservative perspective. Because this has proved to me that they don't need to argue from an objective point of view to defend something in a public setting. And without that, we'd all still be burning witches at the stake and drinking from different drinking fountains. So yeah, that has to be the earliest and strongest continued reason I feel like the Republican Party lacks integrity. And if in 20 years we're lucky enough in this nation where gay rights is just as much a part of our past as black rights and women's rights, then that's great. but this skepticism will probably continue to prod me for the rest of my life. Thanks. Now do something about it.